Guys, welcome back to Fiery Love 1111. I'm here and gonna do a reading for you. It's not live. I meant to start a video about, I'm doing this series on the ego, and I wanted to start a video about this issue with our egos and how it limits us as spiritual beings. And the title of it was going to be What Makes You Think You Can't. Okay? And I had this scenario that kept popping in my head that was going to show a comparison from what our ego always stops us from doing and limits us on, and then what our higher self always encourages us to do. So it's a completely different opposite energy, right? So, higher selves always encourage us to grow and expand and, go with our intuition, our inner knowing, all those beautiful energies, right? But our ego always stops us and tells us, no, you can't. If you do that, you're going to be hurt, or, something's going to happen, or, it's always very limiting, okay? Because, the ego is a protective energy, right? It's our shelter, our shelter, survival. It's a survival instinct. Survival, food, protection, all these energies, but it's also very limiting. If you live in your ego, you're going to reside in a very limited energy. And so I started to do this video and had all these thoughts and stuff coming in to me. And then as I was doing it, I wasn't even going to plan on using these cards. But for some reason, and I trust my higher knowing. I trust my intuition. I don't just go with my ego. I override my ego as much as I can and listen to my higher self. And these cards popped out, and it started to show me an energy from a divine masculine. And so I think there's a divine masculine here that wants to tell this story about how to supersede the ego, a story probably about himself. Apparently, it looks like I just turned these first cards over and just started to read the cards myself, and then I realized, I should just do a reading. Now, I don't know what these energies up here are going to tell me, but so far down here, it's a story from the divine masculine, and I think it is along the lines of this story about listening to our ego or listening to our higher self and what that difference is, okay? So let's just get into it. I'll try not to make it too long of a video. But the first energy that popped up was this Three of Wands, okay? And immediately, I know this is the first energy, so I'm going to try to explain it as best I can within this divine masculine's realm of thinking, okay? So here's this divine masculine that ran to somebody else. And this is the energy before I even look at these cards, okay? This is what this energy tells me. This is a man that ran away from somebody he loved and into somebody else's arms, okay? It was a fear tactic. It was almost like just a superficial energy and a very materialistic energy. So this divine masculine, what he's telling me is that he ran into what he knows. This is what he knew, okay? He's not a spiritual person. He's very realistic, very grounded, a very earth energy. I just get earth energy, grounded earth energy. And this is what he knew. He ran to somebody that was like what he knew. It's all security, stability is the energy I literally got, okay? And this is just from reading this card. This is what he knew, but he's not happy, okay? But it is what he knows. So his ego told him he should be happy because this is what he knows, okay? So kind of go with me on this, okay? Your ego, his ego said, okay, this is what you know. You know earth and you know stability, you know logic, you know reason, you know materialistic things, and having money, having a nice house, having a nice car, but this is what you know, so go with it. Go with somebody that knows you or that can relate to how I am, right? This is what this divine masculine is showing me, okay? And then the clarifying cards that come up are actually that, okay? They actually clarify this exact energy that I see in this card, okay? He was the chaser. He chased something that he knew, okay? It wasn't necessarily somebody that he wanted, but it was somebody that could relate to him energetically, materialistically, egotistically, okay? Very materialistic, logical, you know, I believe it when I see it kind of energy. They both related to each other that way, okay? And then the palm tree just clarifies that more. It was stability, security, permanence, growth, endurance, flexibility. This is what he knew. He knew that you know, the stability of being in something that he knew. Okay, so he's showing us right away that he just went with what he understood, what was comfortable with him, not necessarily something that he desired, but it was comfortable for him, okay? And then the next energy that comes out is this Four of Pentacles, and this is somebody that took advantage of him, okay? I have no idea if it's real, you know, a third party situation, whatever this relationship was, she took full granted. She took him for complete granted. She saw somebody, it was like, I don't want to, let me just try to describe what I'm seeing in my mind. So what I'm seeing in my mind is somebody that's like, she's squinting her eyes, she's assessing him, and when she finds any type of weakness in him, she expands on that, expounds on that, jumps on it, and makes him, you know, she just took advantage. That's Spirit showing me. Spirit showing me that that she took very much advantage of him, okay? And then, of course, the clarifying card is the snake. This is, you know, competition, enemy, clever, malicious, look over your shoulder, the other woman. She definitely took advantage of him in all those that way, just because he was used to being materialistic and seeing life in a very superficial, earthy way. She didn't have to take advantage of it, but she did. And that's what this divine masculine is showing me. He was taken advantage of. Okay, now this is an energy that's now finally coming into his 3D realization. This is coming into his knowing, and he's more aware of it now, because he was not aware of it for a long time. He wasn't aware of how much she was taking advantage of him. Okay, and so he's acknowledging this. He's acknowledging that this has happened to him. Okay, and then, you know, the next card that came up, this is like a story, what he's trying to tell us, okay? You know, this five of swords, it's like, you know, hey, I'm, you know, just so badass, I'm the best you're ever gonna get, you know, and look at her, you know, she's making this arm, you know, this, you know, she's flexing her bicep, you know, like, this is the best you're going to get, baby, and you ain't ever going to find anybody like me. You know, she held that kind of over his head, you know, and because initially it wasn't an infatuation, a little bit of an obsessive energy is what I'm getting, and she held it over his head. She utilized it for every ounce she could get. She used it, okay? And here we go. Here's the clarifier, the mask. Not showing true feelings, hide, personify, pretend, delude, gaslighting. So, you know, he's starting to be aware of this, that yes, You know, I was being gaslighted. I was being, you know, deluded, and you know, she was just taking advantage of me. It was just being taken advantage of, and he's starting to be aware of this. Okay? You know, she was pretending. It was like this pretending energy, because all she wanted was, she was going to find any way she could to get what she wanted. Okay, so whatever happened in this energy, this is what happened. And he's finally being aware of this. He's finally being aware of, and he's aware of his own mask. So they reflected each other for a while. He was wearing a mask too, because he'd allowed it to happen, but he wasn't really happy with her, because she was so superficial, and she wasn't deep. She had no depth to her, okay? And he realized they were both wearing a mask, okay? And this is all his energies that he's aware of now. And then, you know, the next one is this girl talk, and where, you know, he's you know, thinking about making love to her, yet he's holding himself back from her. And who is she looking at? She's not even looking at him. She's looking at this devil. She's looking at this devil. So this person over here is somebody that she thinks he wants, and so she's not even connecting to him. It's all just fake. It's all just fake. You know, but what's the clarifier? Girl talk. And it says time with friends, moving on, happily single, living in the moment, having fun. So it was just a having fun. Very, very light, superficial energy to him. You know, it was just about having sex and having fun. It didn't mean anything to him. See, he wasn't able to even grasp her and hug her. He held himself back for her because she wasn't who he wanted, is what he's saying. But it was just fun. It was just fun to him. That's all. It was just time fun. And he was happily single, living in the moment. It didn't matter. It did not matter to him. Okay, and that's what he's saying in this energy. So he was going with his ego. Okay, so this is where that separation from the ego and our higher selves is starting to come into play, because you know, he's starting to see that materialistic, very superficial energies is living in the ego. And that's what he's saying here. This is all just living in the ego, living in the moment, you know, with this girl talk, happily single, living in the moment, time with friends. It was all just, it wasn't deep. It didn't allow him to become deep and let himself get deep with his own energy, his own spirit, his own feelings, okay? He didn't allow himself to. It was a very big block. There's a big block here because he was just living in his ego, okay? But then here, you know, there's this Knight of Wands. So, you know, this energy is him meeting somebody else. Here's this Knight of Wands where he meets somebody else, and it's just all fiery. You know, this is wheat in this field, but it's like fire energy, passion, joy, just really being content and happy, and I can be myself with this woman. I can be myself. And, you know, so he meets this new person, and, you know, and romance is blooming. You know, he's completely realized he can be himself with her. Okay, so he's now learning to reach out beyond his ego and see that there is more. You know, there is more when you let go of that ego and think about how that energy feels with your higher self. So his higher self says, I can be myself. His higher self, his soul, is screaming out, I can be myself with her. This fiery energy, this passion, this joy, this is who I am truly. This is who I am. I'm not this ego person down here that's very superficial and materialistic. I'm a very different person with this woman, and she brings that out in me, and I like it. Okay, he loved it. Okay, and then and here we go with the King of Cups. You know, he wants to protect her. He wants to protect her because she does bring that love to him. She did bring that love to him, and that contentment and that joy. And he just wants to completely surround her and protect her with every ounce of his being. He wants to protect her and give her all his cups, everything that he can possibly give her. He wants to give her because she brought this out in him. Right? And it brought out this major seduction. It's very an erotic energy too, because he was more himself, even in bed, Spirit showing me, even in bed, you know, with his attraction, flirting, dating, hooking up, temptation. You know, it was very much something that he felt more alive with her than he ever did with anybody else, is what Spirit's showing me. But then, boom, you know, here comes this Emperor energy where he's realizing, I have this passion for somebody that's not with me. Do you see how, you know, he's holding his rods, you know, the staff, rod, you know, whatever, sorry. You know, and he's realizing the passion that he holds is not for the person that he's with. It's for this other person that lights his fire, that loves him for everything that he is, and for everything that he can be. And there's no conditions here. That's what ignites his soul, right? And so he has this epiphany, like, you know, the sudden change, shocking news, a surprise, epiphany, upheaval, transformation. He realizes, I've been living a lie with this other person, because everything I've ever desired, everything I've ever wanted is this other person that lights my fire. This is the person that ignites my soul, Spirit showing me. Okay? So he has this huge lightning transformation. And then what happens next? Let's see. You know, then he's this deep Hierophant energy where, you know, he has all these spiritual, like, downloads, and he starts to awaken. That's what this energy is. He's starting to awaken and realize, you know, he's sitting here with two different women, right? The fiery soul, the fiery person that ignites his soul, and the other, you know, very grounded, logical, earthy, materialistic other person's also with him. But he's starting to awaken. See, this light behind him is all these downloads coming from Spirit, and he's starting to awaken and have these epiphanies, big time. And then, you know, you get this energy coffee cup, and that's meeting and conversing, savoring the moment, feeling uplifted, friendship. And so he goes to her, he spends this time with her, and the more time he spends with her, the more time the more energy that he realizes he's more himself than he ever has with anybody else. Even his family members, even his own family doesn't know him like she does. Okay? So he runs and he spends this time with her. Because she knows him. She just gets him. His spirit just can't help but wonder, how does this woman know me more than anybody else even my own family? How does this woman, you know, how does this happen, right? And so he's starting to awaken because he's asking these questions, and Spirit showing him the answers, okay? Through that Hierophant energy, he's starting to awaken. He starts to get all these answers. Hold on, I'm just going to move these cards as I'm talking here. And starts to awaken, and the more he talks with her, and the more he, you know, listens to the energies that she talks about, the more he realizes, the more he is starting to awaken and break out of this very limited, earthy, ego way of thinking that, you know, everything that exists is only what we can see, hear, feel, touch, right? So the more he just sits and listens to her, converses with her, talks to her, listens to her, feels these energies from her, the more he realizes we are so much more than what we see and feel. And it's like, it's this huge epiphany of it's not, life isn't just about making money and having a nice home and a nice car and work until you die. You know, like he realizes like this life is so much more, and he's really awakening about all this. And then you have this chariot energy that comes flying in, right? Major chariot energy, and all these he has all these epiphanies start to happen, right? Where he's, I mean, you can see this card, right? How his hands like kind of holding her down, his hands like pushing her down, wanting her to not leave him. Okay, and you see the, like, what he has in his hand. It's like a flogger type of thing. I don't know what it, you know, like this energy of almost, I mean, it's the chariot, but to me it's coming in as like a control thing where he's afraid of losing her. He wants to take her and not, you know, let her up, because he knows if he lets her up, she's just going to go. She's going to disappear, and he's going to lose everything that ever really meant something to him. Right? This is this new person that came in. And so all these energies start happening with him that he doesn't really even like. You know, the sunglasses comes in, the watching, looking, stalking, gaslighting. You know, it drives him crazy because he can't understand why he's watching her so much, why he's, you know, the watching, looking, stalking, gaslighting. It's like, he doesn't even understand it because of all the energy, all the things that have already happened with them. He doesn't want to lose that. That's what he's saying to me right now. He didn't want to lose that. He was very afraid of losing that. And then here comes this hammer, right? The sabotage, rebuilding, interrogation, repetitive, persistent, working on it. He realized that in doing this, in doing these energies, and in doing this watching, looking, stalking, it sabotages the relationship, okay? It's being... He was afraid to lose her, Spirit showing me, but in so doing he pushed her away. Okay, he pushed her away. He made her stronger. That's what Spirit's showing me. He made her stronger, and the butterfly is clarifying that. So he pushed her away in this gaslighting, this stalking, this watching, looking. You know, he invaded her privacy. There was no boundaries here. There was no boundaries. He wouldn't allow it. He couldn't allow her to get out of his sight. So, but what happened with that energy that he didn't even like himself. Okay, let's make this clear. He didn't like it himself, but he couldn't help it. Okay, it's almost like bringing in some past energy. It caused her to put the hammer down and say, enough's enough. I have my boundaries. And you know, it sabotaged the relationship. It sabotaged the relationship. Okay, but what happened was she learned to love herself. She learned to let that go, and it caused this transformation in both of them. With her learning to love herself and not allowing that energy anymore, right? When she learned to love herself and put a stop to that, he had to stop and take a look at himself. He had to stop. It forced, by doing this, she held up a mirror to him, is what he's showing me. She held up a mirror to him and forced him to look at himself. Forced him to look at himself and show him what he was doing. Because even though And he's showing me this, even though with the chariot, you know, he was afraid to let her go. The chariot's also saying he couldn't go towards her because he was afraid. So it's almost like this dual energy of he couldn't let her go, but he also couldn't allow himself to love her. He couldn't allow himself to be close. So drop this hammer and it causes huge transformation. The relation evolving to the next phase, healing the inner child growth. It caused them both to look deeply at themselves, let go of that ego energy, the ego energy that says, I need to control you, I need to dominate you, you need to listen to me, because God forbid I lose you, right? That's the ego. That's the ego talking, is saying, I can't lose you, because then my ego can't handle that, is what he's screaming at me almost. My ego can't handle that, right? But our higher selves almost forces us to knock that ego out and transform ourselves, because our higher selves are going to step in and say, what are you really doing? You know, you're going to wake up first thing in the morning and you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you go, do you realize what you're doing? Your higher self's going to say, Are you really sure you know what you're doing here by hurting her like this and spying and gaslighting? This is not you. This is not the person you want to be. This is not the person you are. This is where our higher selves come in and ask us these questions. Are you this person? Are you this person that gaslights and stalks and you know and needs to control? You know, our higher selves make us ask us these questions, and we won't rest until we look at ourselves in the mirror and answer them honestly, right? So when he finally had to look at himself in the mirror and answer himself honestly, it caught this butterfly. Butterfly is all about transformation. It's all about new growth. It's all about healing the inner child. It's all about letting go of that ego and listening to our higher selves. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Okay, so on with the story. So let's just see. And then, boom, what happens? Justice comes in. Justice will always have its day, okay? Because there was imbalance in this relationship. There was major imbalance, okay? She had absolutely no privacy. Her boundaries weren't being appreciated, paid attention to. And so when this happens, justice is going to step in, and justice is going to fix this. Justice is going to fix this and make sure that it gets acknowledged and it gets fixed, okay? Yeah, and so being heartbroken had to happen. It had to happen. She had to leave. She had to leave because she learned to love herself. She learned to appreciate herself and love her own self, love her boundaries, love her the soul growth that she has, and she wasn't going to allow him, as much as she loved him, she wasn't going to keep allowing this to happen. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but about for the last 5 minutes or so, as I've been recording this light, I don't know if it's my light right here, but the light has been getting dimmer and brighter, brighter and dimmer and brighter. And in my room, like, it's only been doing it on the video, but in this room right here, like the light above me and this light, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. But in my video right now, like, it was getting dimmer, lighter, and that's spirit coming through. That's spirit coming through and clarifying this energy, because we are energy, you know, spirits can work with this. Spirits work with electricity. Spirits can make these things happen. They can make lights flicker, make lights stronger, dimmer, strong, dim. They can make lights burn out just like that. They can, when they're trying to get a point across, he's saying, when I'm trying to get a point across, I can do this. Okay, so this is a very strong divine masculine that's with me right now. His energy is with me. And now I just want to clarify this too, because we are also energy, and because we are endless energy, we are boundless, we are limitless. This energy could actually be somebody that could tune into this video later. Okay, it's not beyond think beyond the conception of your soul is always just in your body, okay? Because as souls, as energetic beings, we can leave our soul. We can leave our bodies. A part of us can leave our bodies, and our higher selves and part of ourselves can go help others that we love on this earth realm right now as we're living our lives. We're endless beings, okay? We are endless energy. There is no limits and no bounds to this energy that we are made of. So just pay attention to these things, okay? When they happen in your life, if they happen in your life around any kind of messages, around anything that you may be doing, listen and pay attention to those energies, because it may be your higher self talking to you, or another, like a divine masculine in your life that you love, or divine feminine in your life that you love. So pay attention to those spirits telling me, okay? But anyway, with this Justice card, so Justice stepped in, and it caused this breakup to happen. Being deeply hurt, sad, separation, breakup, feeling lost, grieving, mourning, this happened. Okay, she felt that and he felt that. It's very dual. But what happened with that breakup? What happened with that separation? Justice came in and showed us the clarity, the truth, the revelation, the solidarity, force, honor, protection, power. Boom! Justice came in and said, nope, this energy was not even. It wasn't even. You cannot treat people like this and not expect something to be imbalanced. And now we have to have balance. Okay, so justice is also a universal law. It is a law of nature. It's a law of, it's just a law of the universe. Justice will always have its way, and balance always has to be. Endure. Justice will always have its way. Okay, no matter what happens, even if it doesn't happen, and you're aware of it, justice has its way in one form or another. So it brought this clarity. It brought this clarity out. It brought this revelation out. The clarity, the truth came out. And I always like to actually see this card as Archangel Michael. The sword and the rose is very much defines him. Archangel Michael is in this energy, helping justice clarify and show this truth to both parties, that she had relinquished her boundaries, her privacy, gave all her power over to him, and he abused it. Okay, he abused it, and it wasn't something that he was purposely doing, but he was used to doing it. It was something he could do, and probably, it was kind of like that energy of taking advantage, is what Spirit's showing me. It's kind of like a taking advantage, but the Archangel Michael is stepping in, showing that truth with justice and clarifying and clearing up this energy and bringing this balance. Okay, so we got a lot of major arcana in this. Okay, we already had the Chariot. We already had the Hierophant. And the Chariot. And then Justice came in. And then we still have more. We have the Hermit came out right after this, okay? And the Hermit's, making him think, because she left him, okay? She said, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm going to date other people. And so here he is, and he's still spying on her, apparently, because he can see this, but it makes him go deeper. It makes him realize, hey, she's choosing to be with somebody else right now. What did I do? What did I do to cause this? What did I do to lose her when I was trying really hard not to? It made him go deeper and made him realize that, that his actions or non-actions caused this heartache. It caused him to go into this deep hermit's mode and really go within. Really go within. You see how he's staring at this candle and the flame is blown out. And he knows that, you know, he was the cause of that flame blowing out. And he wants to fix it. Okay? He wants to fix it. You know, and here we go. Boom, the runner. That's the clarifying of this card. She ran away. She ran away and she said, I'm not tolerating that. I have my boundaries. I love myself. And I deserve love. And so she ran. And so here he is sitting in this hermit's energy of just sadness. This deep sadness and grief, and saying, you know, this candle's blown out. Well, will we ever have any chance again? What, you know, and, you know, what really made him go within is what Spirit's showing me, is what he's showing me. Okay? And then the next card I show is the wheel. So here we go with the wheel of change. You remember what that's like, right? You know, this is that energy of finding that love. This is what happened to her. You know, here she was, very down on herself, and, you know, codependence coming through. She didn't have good self-esteem, you know, but when all this happened, all it did, when he was doing this, it was almost like a higher self doing this, because when you look at it through the higher self, you realize, okay, yes, he was doing this. He was stalking, gaslighting, doing all these things, but all it did was caused her to look at herself. To look at herself and say, am I going to allow this? No, I love myself. I'm not going to stay in this dark, sad energy. I love myself. So our higher selves, you know, it's a perception. How are we going to look at this? It's all in perception. We can look at it as our ego and just look at it as, okay, this was, you know, this was all, he was just a stalker. He was just like, you know, he couldn't let me go. It was his ego. He had all these issues, right? You can look at it that way, sure. Or you can look at it through our higher selves way of looking at it. Look it through the eyes of our higher selves. And what happened? She learned to love herself. Okay? And boom. You know, this is the clarity for it. Passion, insane chemistry, like each other equally, having fun. She learned to love herself. She could look in the mirror and say, I deserve so much better. I am a beautiful soul. I can love myself. I can love myself, and I can still love him, but I love myself more. I love myself, and I won't allow this to happen, is what Spirit's just showing me. It's just a loving energy. She loves herself enough to give herself boundaries. That's all it is. It wasn't anything mean. She wasn't for, you know, any negative energy out towards him. She just learned to love herself. She learned to love herself more. And so, see, in the higher, if you look at it in a higher realm type of way, yes, he was sitting in his ego. Yes, he was afraid to lose her. Yes, he was, you know, being controlling, manipulative, gaslighting, stalking, all these things, right? All that did was make her love herself more. But because she did that, it forced him to look at how he was. It made him look deeper into himself and see how he was. And usually when that happens, it has the same effect on each other. Because she loved herself more, it makes him look at himself and makes him try to love himself more. Right? So, and then the next energy is the Strength card. And the Strength is just finding the strength to not tolerate that anymore. See the breakup, separation, stop the pattern. Stop the pattern. okay? That was the issue. That's what this whole thing clarified, is having the strength to look up, okay, this is a very deeper message actually. It's not just like, oh, I'm breaking up with you, it's a separation, blah, blah, blah. No, it's a breakup and separation of our inner selves. This divine masculine is showing me. It's a breakup and separation of the ego self. Taking an axe to that ego that was the driving force in his life. That's what this energy is. That's what he's showing me, okay? He took that axe onto his own ego and said, I've had enough. Like he's breaking up with his own ego, separation, stopping the pattern of this issue of listening to his ego and living his life by his ego. The rules of his ego do not apply anymore, is what he's saying. Right? Yes, look at this. And then the love, unconditional love, self-love, oneness, passion, affection, attraction. Because he took the axe and broke off and had the strength to look deeply at his ego, okay? She walked away. So all that did was force him to look at himself, right? It forced him to look at himself. He sees this ego that has been the driving force in his life. What has the ego done for him? This is what his higher self is saying. What has my ego done for me? You know, yes, my ego has helped me to survive. Yes, it's given me the food on my table and the clothes on my back and the house and stuff. But what has it really done for me? Has it just been a survival technique? Has it been a pushing away? Has it been something because I'm just so afraid, listening to my ego instead of my higher self, instead of the love that I have for her? His higher self's coming in and saying, this love that you have for her, you were just showing it the wrong way. You know, showing your love through the ego doesn't help. Because the ego just wants to control. The ego just wants to control. The ego just wants to sit in fear. It just wants to say, you can only do this, 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 and this. But you can't do this. If you sit and listen to the ego is going to have limits. The ego gives us, limits. It gives us fear. It gives us control. And he's realized this. He's awakened and realized this, that he's allowed his ego to run his life and all these things, instead of listening to his higher self that just completely loves himself. He completely can see how his higher self, his soul, loves himself unconditionally. And he can see how much she loves him and how much he loves her unconditionally as souls, as our higher selves. Right? There is no ego. There is no ego in the spirit realm. And he's realized this, is what he's saying. He's realized this. There is no ego. I can love her and she can love me unconditionally. And we can love ourselves unconditionally. We can take our own hearts and love ourselves for everything that we are as ourselves. And finding the strength to tackle that freaking ego and stop listening to that fear and self-doubt, right? And the limits and all those things that the ego does. The ego is so limiting and so self-depreciating, right? Because it teaches us to live in fear in order to survive. The ego is very self-limiting. It's the absolute opposite of our higher selves. Our higher selves are limitless, right? Our higher selves are limitless. Our higher selves are knowing. There's a very loving, deep knowing of what we are capable of what, how we truly are as souls. So the ego is completely different than our higher selves, and he's learned to decipher that. He's learned to separate that. He's learned to separate that and listen. So when his ego starts to take over and start to live in that fear of, oh my goodness, I may lose her. Or, oh my goodness, it's very limiting fear, self-depreciating things. He can stop it and just listen to his higher self. He can just listen to his higher self and love himself for that inner knowing, that intuition, that deep intuition, deep inner knowing that he does have within himself. That's what he's showing. And then here we got another major arcana, the Hanged Man. So he comes back to this Hanged Man energy because he loves her. Okay, so this energy is showing me, he can't stop thinking of her. This is the beautiful soul. This Hanged Man energy is this energy of him residing in this love. Now that he's awakened and learned to, separate that ego from his higher self, he says, oh, look at this. This is the beauty that loves me for who I am. This is higher self talking, right? She just loves me for who I am. She loves me unconditionally. She loves me and she tries to understand me. And I just can't stop looking at her. I just love her to death. And she loves him too. She has that understanding. She's just chilling, hanging out. And she's not sitting in her ego, because she's already sitting in her higher self. She's already sitting in her higher knowing that one day he will be able to see this, that he will be able to separate that ego. And so she's just sitting in this loving energy of knowing. That's all it is. She's sitting in a higher energy of knowing her higher self, and knowing that he will one day see his higher self, and that's what he's doing. So there's this connection coming back, and this is it's an energy that's happening right now. That's what Spirit's showing me. It's not a future energy, it's right now. This is in this present moment. This is exactly the energy that's going on, the Hanged Man. Okay? And, oh wow. And now look at these cards. Look at the clarifiers for this. Healing heart. Healing from heartbreak. Freedom from toxic relationship or addiction. This is happening right now. Within this Hanged Man energy, they are both healing from those past addictions. They can both look at each other and look at themselves and realize that they don't have to be a victim of their past. They can let that go. They are healing. They can allow this beautiful healing to come in, and what happens with that is ascension. Transcending obstacles, learning, expansion, new phase, preparing for union. This is that energy. That's an energy of not being in an ego. This is an energy of loving and residing in your higher self. Whatever that higher self energy is always going to be loving. It's always going to be uplifting. It'll always ask you the questions that you need to know in order to grow. Okay? It's never ever a condescending energy. It's never a controlling energy. It's never a fear energy. That's our ego. And he's learning to decipher this and see this difference. He's learning, healing all that past heartbreak and realizing he does not have to reside in that energy of his past. He can let that go and love himself for exactly who he is right now. Yes, we're here on this planet. We are not perfect. He's aware of this, and he accepts that about himself. And he can heal his own heart from this. And she has that understanding that it was just a matter of time before this was going to happen. She knew this all along, that he has this inside of him. If he is just willing to let that ego go and listen to himself, right? And that's when this ascension happens. This ascension is happening because we're letting go of all that ego, all that fear, all that control, all that, all the survival energies that, yes, we do need them to survive on this earth plane, but it does not have to control us. Yes, we need it to have a roof over our head and have, food and shelter and everything, but it does not have to control us. Our higher selves are going to control us right now. That's what he's saying. Our higher selves are going to control us. Our higher selves are going to help us. Our higher selves and our higher selves never are controlling. That's the beauty of it. Our higher selves only want us to ascend. Our higher selves only ever want us to ask those questions, of ourselves, that make us look at those fears, that make us look at those limiting beliefs that we have that keep us in this box of safety, supposedly, because the ego's only safety and security and being scared, right? So the ego's like this and wants to keep you in this box. But when you learn to ascend and you learn to listen to your higher self, you break apart that ego, because our higher selves only want us to ascend. Our higher selves only want to help us grow over and over and over and over. It's a never-ending growth process. Never-ending growth process. Our higher selves are always trying to help us grow. And our higher selves gently and lovingly can show us that, yes, this is something that you did. This is something that happened. Okay, doesn't make us a bad person, but can we learn from our mistakes? Can we learn from our mistakes, still love ourselves, and grow? Yes, yes. Our higher selves will always ask us these questions. Our higher selves always want us to see the good in ourselves, to see that growth that is unlimited possibilities in ourselves, and just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, because there's never a limit there, okay? There's never a limit there. We always learn, we always keep growing. And that's what he's learning to see. And then here we go with Temperance. So then Temperance shows up. And Temperance is taken back all, every time that ego pops up, or somebody steps in and tries to be that controlling person. See, and every time our egos try to take over, see, here's empath and narcissistic paradigm, being charmed or used, enable, boundaries. Every time that ego self pops out and wants to bypass those boundaries, wants to, sit back in our ego, pretty much, and allow these energies to take place where we don't listen to our higher selves, right? And you just live in this ego thing. Well, Temperance is going to come in, and Temperance is going to fix that shit. Temperance is going to say, no. Temperance is also a universal law. And Temperance says, look how far you've come. Temperance is talking to our higher selves and talking with his higher self and saying, look, do you really want to go back into this energy of being narcissistic and stalking and gaslighting and doing all these things that caused all that pain in the first place? Do you really want to do that? Because I'm here to balance this out. You've already grown, and you're, there's no going backwards now. This is growth. This is growth. This is growth. You're only moving forward. Temperance is sitting with our higher selves and tempering out that energy. Temperance tempers out that old energy, takes that energy of the ego and tempers it with our higher selves to even out that energy and it's showing him that's not needed, that's not necessary. Our higher selves automatically step in and say, nope, that's not necessary. I don't need to do that anymore. I've grown. Thank you very much, Temperance. Thank you very much for helping me, but I've grown. I'm not going to go back into that old paradigm. I'm not going to be that narcissistic personality, and I'm not going to be that gaslighter and sit in my ego and sit with fear and have to try to control and all these things. I'm not going to do that anymore. And Temperance is helping. Just dilute that energy, dilute it, and get rid of it, and let our higher selves blend and remind us this is why we're here. Our higher selves know better. Our higher selves know what's best for us. And that's not an energy. I don't want to go backwards. And our higher selves are saying, I don't want to go backwards. So Temperance is helping out. Temperance is helping him right now with this energy and with the divine masculine and with divine feminine in balancing out these energies. Okay? And then we just have 2 more, and then I'm done here. We'll go right about in an hour. And then we have the Tower. Here comes the Tower. And the Tower's dealing with this, you know, has all this energy of this realization of how far they've grown, how far they have let go of this ego, and how far that they have ascended, really have this Tower moment of ascending and really realizing what having your higher self means, what just really connecting with his soul, connecting with his own higher self, his own soul, and realizing it bypasses the ego. It transcends that ego. It transcends it, and it expands and grows and blows up and realizes he's just this beautiful, beautiful soul, and I can transcend that old energy and get rid of that ego. Get rid of that ego that's always was the controlling thing. So he's taking a risk, taking a chance to risk, being strategic, options, not showing hand, gambling. There's some kind of energy coming through that he's taking a chance on something. There's a future energy, taking a chance, taking a risk, being strategic. He's sitting in this energy now of his higher self, of this knowing, but also making a plan for something. It's making a beautiful plan for something. So this is also coming through, but it's a future energy. And then the very last card was Judgment. Look at this beautiful card. Now see, can you see the light was dimming and getting brighter? Dimming and getting brighter? It's not doing that in the room, but it's only doing that on the camera. So this is something, okay, so this is telling me karma's with him right now. This is an energy of karma. Can you see how that light's going dim and bright, dim and bright, dim and bright? I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting right here, and this is a beautiful, beautiful glowing lamp. But in the camera view, it's going crazy. And karma's sitting us right here. And karma's fixing this energy. Karma is also with the Tower's energy, with Temperance, and fixing this energy. The stabbed in the back, the heartbreak, pain, separation, deception. Karma's fixing that right now. Karma's coming in and saying, you know what, this has happened. This is what you did, and now this is what he's going through this right now. That's what karma's showing me right now. Karma is showing me that he's going through this right now because the only way he can learn is by experience himself. He can't learn what he did to her by just her telling him or by just knowing it. He had to experience it himself. So karma's stepping in. Judgment is karma. Karma's stepping in and saying, look, this is something you got to learn to deal with so you'll never do this again because you don't like this shit when it happens to you, do you, buddy? You know, and karma really bit him in the ass is what Spirit's showing me. But then when that happens, okay, so when that happens, look at this unity here that's happening. Because he learned his lessons, there's more, the Temperance and karma and justice have evened out those energies. So they're both looking at the divine. They're both realizing they are part of the higher self. They're both seeing their higher selves. They're both seeing what they're capable of. Okay, they're not residing in their ego. They're listening to their higher selves. Do you see that and how it's so beautiful, this energy? And this also, it's a union energy that's coming through. Even though it's karma and judgment, it's also showing me a union energy. And then, you know, the last one was talking. interested, conversing more, waited message arrives, text, call, email, hoovering. So he got his karma, and he wants to tell her, look, you know, I learned, I experienced that too. And what Spirit's showing me is the person that did that to him was that initial person that was all superficial. That person right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. This person that took complete advantage of him. Complete advantage of him. Right? Well, she had to do that back to him in order for him to learn the lesson. In order for him to learn the lesson that you don't do that to people. That's what he's showing me. It caused all that heartbreak, all that pain, that deception. He had to learn it from somebody else. So karma, you know, you can't... That's what I love about karma. Karma, you know, you can't treat somebody bad without getting it right back. Karma will always have its day and have its way. You know, you can't just treat somebody like shit and expect to move forward and have a happy life. No, this other chick came in and said, look, you know, this is how we learn this lesson. But so this is another future, and it's coming through. There's going to be, you know, some talking, the interested, conversing more, waited message arrives, text, call, email, hoovering. You know, he's learned his lesson. He's in this energy of, okay, you know, we do love each other, and we can listen to our higher selves and accept the beauty that we are. We can accept the beauty of our souls as our higher selves and forgive each other. We can both forgive each other, and he can accept that forgiveness that he's asking of her, and vice versa. All that, just, you know, they can sit in that energy of just forgiveness and starting over. It's a beautiful energy, and listening to our higher selves. That's the main thing. Not letting the ego control us. There's no more ego. There's no more ego. So when this happens, just try to pay attention to that. You know, when these things happen in our lives, are we listening to our ego? Or are we listening to our higher selves? When our higher selves always ask those questions. Is this what's best for me? Is this the person that you really want to be? Those are the loving questions that we'll get from our higher selves. Our ego will always say, are you sure you want to do that? You're probably going to get hurt there. And, you know, it's a very survival technique. It's very limiting. It makes us fearful. So remember those energies. And then you can learn to decipher them. You can learn to decipher that difference between what is sitting here in our ego, which is just fear. Fear is the opposite of truth, okay? Our higher selves just tell us that. Fear is the opposite of truth. Our ego is fear. And that is the opposite of truth. And truth is our higher selves. So Spirit just always wants to ask those questions. Are you listening to your ego? Or are you listening to your higher self? Are you listening to fear? Or are you listening to the truth? Which is that inner knowing that resides in all of us. Man, I just love that. I love that. I love that message. I really want to just almost cry because it was so beautiful. You know, it's so beautiful when you just listen to your higher self. I didn't know how this reading was going to come out. I had no idea. The cards all flew out. They all laid down. And something just told me this divine masculine wants to tell his story in his perspective. So we can learn to decipher what that means between our ego and our higher selves. I couldn't, and even before this reading, I couldn't figure out how I was going to do that. And this divine masculine just steps in and says, look, I'm going to help you. I'm going to tell you my story, and I'm going to tell you what happened. And then in this story, maybe you can see. Maybe I can help others also learn to decipher our ego, which is fear, and our higher selves, which is truth. Isn't that freaking amazing? It's always just so amazing when we just let go of that ego and just listen to our higher selves. Go with it. Go with that beauty and flow that is our higher selves, our soul, that inner knowing that has always been with us and always will be with us. All right, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I could just sit here all night and talk about that. I'll do another video on the ego and our higher selves if you guys would like. I mean, it seems to be something that resonates with a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people just need to hear it right now, Spirit's saying. I'm not sure. But don't forget to comment below. I'd love to hear your comments. And you can also send me an email, fierylove1111@gmail.com. And don't forget to hit that like and share and subscribe buttons right down below. All right, thank you guys. I love you very much. Take care. Bye.